Welcome to the Corvallis BNI Network podcast, where we're helping members be better BNIers. I am Scott Kemp with Cinematic Solutions. This is Jesse Freeby with Corvallis Custom. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Scott. Good to see you again.
Thanks for joining me again.
Yeah.
This is episode number 4. I think we're picking up steam here.
Yep, cruising along.
You've got a lot of knowledge on BNI, by the way.
It's almost 10 years in the chapter, so I think it's just
That's
all
crazy.
compounded over time, and I've had some incredible mentors along the way.
Now, you
So
technically weren't there at the very first day of Corvallis BNI, right?
I joined like a month after.
Like
the
a
chapter,
month
yeah.
after. So, like Marty's been there for 10 years and 1 month.
Yeah.
JB, 10 years. So
Yep.
that's still a long time. And so we consider you OG,
Thank you.
even though like 1 month, but yeah, you're OG.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
I'm new G, 3 years. So I'm learning a lot, and I've learned a lot from you over the years with your education moments like last year. And you just bring a ton of knowledge, and you're willing to share it with anybody who asks, right?
Yep, absolutely.
That's pretty cool. So that's what we're trying to do here is share it with you guys so we can make better members out of our chapter members. And so thanks for showing up here today. What are we talking about today?
Talking about visitors today.
And who's in your room, right?
And who's in your room. Yep, absolutely. So when I first got invited to the chapter, because I wasn't a part of that OG group that you talked about, BNI had a strategy.
You were OG, come
I
on.
appreciate that. BNI had a strategy of actually having the existing members send out a written letter via USPS to every single person they wanted to join our chapter. So the post office delivery person showed up one day and handed me a stack, and the stack was all handwritten envelopes, all like, self-business addressed. And I was kind of confused because it wasn't a bill and it wasn't something from a customer.
Right.
And I opened it up, and it was 15 different letters, all in 15 different envelopes from different members of the exact same BNI chapter. And all 15 of them had used a very similar form letter where they had put their letterhead on the top of it and their name on the top of it. And then it was like 3 paragraphs about BNI and what it was and why it was great. And then they each signed it at the end of it, and all of them were identical. And I literally read 3 of them, opened up the rest of them, realized they were identical, and said, this feels like a scam to me. And I threw them in the outgoing mail of the spam folder.
Yeah.
And was just moved on with my day, right? And so that was not an effective way of recruiting me as a potential visitor to the chapter, let alone a member to the chapter. And so then like a week went by, and I actually had Dr. Young, who I think will be on your podcast a little bit later, show up to my office and say, hey, I sent you a letter. I'd really like you to be my visitor at BNI. And I said, here, hang on a second. And I walked into my office and I dug through the rubbish bin, and I pulled it out and I go, which one of these is yours? And I held up all 15 of the letters. And so that was not an effective way of inviting people to the chapter. Okay. And so one of the things that we've learned in the last 10 years is that the best chapter members are ones that already have the opportunity to do business. And so in BNI, we have this concept called power teams. And so power teams are people who share alike businesses. So I do printing, right? And ultimately the things that I'm printing are other customers' brands. So you could say that I'm in print marketing. Marketing is kind of what my business does, helps other businesses, get their brand out there visually. You are in videography, right? So you also do the exact same thing, but in the form of video. So we are in a great power team together because my customer is very likely also your customer.
That's right.
And there's no competition between the two of us.
Right.
If somebody needs 100 t-shirts for an event for their business, the great referral for me, that same event, that same customer probably would benefit from a promo video or an advertising video or something to help promote that in like a videography standpoint. So how we translate that to visitors in the room and who we want in the room, it comes down to how can we round out those power teams. So the most successful members that I've ever recruited to the chapters have been ones that I could plug in with a power team. And so if I was looking for a member in the chapter, it would be somebody who owns a marketing agency, right? Or who does.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Right. Or a graphics designer, right? We can do graphics design. I don't like doing graphics design. I'd much rather be able to pass that off to somebody else.
Yeah.
And so if I'm going to go out and approach a graphics designer or a marketing agency, I can go, hey, on day one, not only am I going to do business with you, right? But also I want to introduce you to Scott Kemp because Scott Kemp has said he could use you.
Yeah, Roman's doing websites, right? And
yep. And that's how I pass a lot of business to Roman is by going, hey, you've got this brand new event or you've got this brand new thing. We're helping you with the print side of things. Do you have a website? Have you had somebody look at your website? Let me introduce you to Roman because Roman can help you with the website, and then Scott can put videos on the website.
Right.
So the most effective use of this, and we're talking a little bit about power teams right now, is a couple of years ago, I had a friend who had 3 little kiddos, and they were at Little Beaver's daycare. And Little Beaver's daycare did not accept credit cards. Little Beaver's daycare was cash only. And this friend was just basically lamenting to me about how, every single month he had to write a check or he had to, go get cash for all three of these kids and how it was frustrating. And so what I heard there, based on the sales manager moments that another member in the chapter had given me, was, hey, this is a problem. And I know a member of our chapter that can solve it. So I said, hey, can I introduce you to Alan? And Alan did credit card processing for our chapter.
Right.
And Alan can totally solve this problem for him and his company also. And then I basically told him what I knew about Alan that I'd learned in the meetings.
Yeah.
And so Alan met with Chris, right? And again, Chris isn't the one who wants this business, but Chris is the one who has access to this business. And Chris set up a meeting between the owner of Little Beavers and Alan. And then they started accepting credit cards, right? Solved a problem for Chris, solved a problem for Little Beavers, solved a problem for probably a lot of other parents who were also using Little Beavers. And then Alan, because he had an incredible power team, was able to go, hey, how are you reconciling your books? And then was able to create a connection or a referral to the bookkeeper in our group.
Right.
Then the bookkeeper said, hey, I'm noticing that you have a lot of written checks for employees. Who's processing your payroll? And was able to make a connection to the payroll processor in our group. And then the payroll processor had a little bit of an issue. Sorry, the Little Beavers had a little bit of an issue with one of their employees and went back to the bookkeeper and Alan, the payroll processor, and said, hey, does your group have somebody who does HR? Because I'm having this problem and you guys have been great for my business so far. Mm-hmm. And they were able to connect them up with our HR rep in the chapter. So power teams are incredible from a standpoint of the frequency of referrals that you will pass within that group, within the group. So what does that have to do with visitors, right? So tying it all back in.
Yep.
When you're thinking about inviting somebody, one, you're going to have a way higher likelihood of them visiting our chapter and joining the chapter if you have a power team you can introduce them to.
That's right.
And then two, who is your power team lacking? For me, it's a graphic designer. For you, it's a marketing agency. And me, it's a marketing agency. Mm-hmm. So if we invite a marketing agency to our chapter next week, the likelihood of them joining is way higher because that's business they're going to get on day one from the two of us.
Right.
We'll still have to train them as BNI members. We'll still have to do all the other stuff that we're going to talk about in this podcast, right? But it just getting them in the room, we're using the strategy of going, hey, I want to introduce you to somebody who has the potential to give you business. Will you show up? And most people will say yes to that.
Yeah. And it's okay to be a little selfish with that. Because it is another member of the group. They will be helping out other people as well, but they're definitely helping out you. If I can get a marketing guy or gal in here, that's a huge help for me.
Yep.
So it's okay to be a little not selfish, but look at who you need and start inviting those people.
Well, in that connection strategy that hey, I want to invite you to our chapter just as a visitor initially, right? Ultimately, I want you to be a member, but we'll start as a visitor. You will be more successful if you're, again, connecting them with somebody. So it doesn't have to be your power group. That's the selfish way of me saying, hey, this would benefit me, come to my group. Mm-hmm. But it could also be, again, let's use Marty as an example, right? Or Alan, who's in payment processing. If I have somebody who identify, hey, you're in their power team, and I introduce them to those people, they're also going to come visit them because I'm the one who's, again, introducing them to somebody that they can potentially do business with.
Right.
So think of it from a standpoint of how can I connect members in our community that are not part of BNI with members of our BNI community to help both of them grow their businesses.
Yeah. And I think there's some categories out there that are just tremendous for finding new referrals. I mean, and you wouldn't think that they would be as far as, it's not like a lawyer, super powerful person. It's like a hairdresser. Because why is a hairdresser so important for a BNI chapter? It's because they get to talk to people constantly. They're in that chair. Michelle, who also does some hair cutting, is like they spill their guts to you, right? That they wouldn't even tell maybe their spouse, or whatever. They just talk to the hairdresser. So that hairdresser is hearing all this stuff. My son's got a bum knee or whatever, and that hairdresser's bells are going off. Oh, I can refer him to Jason, or I can do this or that. So there are categories out there. Payment processing is another one for the people like me and you that are, well, you do both B2C and B2B, but I'm mainly B2B. So a payment processor is huge because they're dealing with businesses every day. Yeah. And they can talk to them about their needs and videos and that sort of thing. So there's definitely some categories out there that have super opportunities for referrals. Yeah. So what's some others that
Well, so do we want to get into Dunbar's number, or do we want to do that as a separate?
Let's do that as a separate one.
Separate episode. Okay. Well, I'll give you the short a condensed version of that right now is
Okay.
the average person knows about and can maintain about 200 relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And so those 200 relationships are not necessarily people that you like see every day, but they're people that you could realistically call up and be like, hey, and they would take your phone call. They would,
Mm-hmm.
listen to what you have to say. And so when you're inviting members to our chapter, look for people who have high touch points with members in our community,
Yeah.
because every single person has that sphere, that contact sphere of 200 people. And there will be some overlap, especially in a small community like Corvallis, but everybody's is unique.
Mm-hmm.
And so just because you know 200 people and I know 200 people, if we can kind of crowdsource that together, that creates incredible opportunity for the members of our chapter. And so every visitor that you invite to the chapter potentially has 200 contacts that they can introduce, not only to you, but to the members of our chapter.
Yeah. But some, again, like a hairdresser, I mean, they're dealing with hundreds of
Yeah.
people that they're interacting on a daily basis.
Their contact sphere is huge.
Yes, a huge contact sphere. So those are good people to invite. Anything else you want to say on visitors and who's in your room?
So with visitors, I think it's one of the things that a lot of members put in the back of their brain. So again, if we're talking about the power of one, where it's one meeting per week, one referral per week, one one-to-one per week, it's one visitor per month.
Mm-hmm.
And so they go, oh, I only need one of them this month. Like, I'm not going to worry about it in the first week of BNI. And then the second week comes around and they go, I still have half the month ahead of me and they don't want to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third week and they go, well, I didn't do it this week either, so I'll just have to do it next week. And then before long, we're at the last week of the month and they're like, I was supposed to invite a visitor. I just got busy, right?
Right.
So every member of the chapter is going to come up with an excuse to themselves as to why they didn't bring a visitor to the meeting. And I think that the biggest thing that new members can do is really shift that mindset to one of, you are providing opportunity to the visitor and to the members of our chapter. And that's super powerful, right? Like that's potentially somebody who can, one, gain a ton of business from the person you introduce them to, but that's also somebody who can also give a lot of business in the $1,000 they potentially contribute, in the 200 people that they potentially know, to the members of our chapter. Maybe it's your business, right? So visitors should really, really be prioritized. And I think we've talked about some strategies today that will help members really, introduce those people, bring those people into the chapter.
Yeah. And I know, you're a power inviter. There's several other people in the group that are power inviters, and we're going to get them on and pick their brain. How do you get so many visitors, and what do you say to them, and what do you not say to them? So I'm looking forward to those future episodes, and because there's a lot of strategy there.
There is.
I mean, you can ask 10 different people, but it's the way that you ask them is how successful you're going to be in getting them to come to the meeting, right?
And my strategy is to, and we've talked about it, but it's provide opportunity for people, right? Provide opportunity for the visitor to do business with somebody in the chapter who you're introducing them to. Provide opportunity for the business in the chapter to do business.
Yeah. So if it's like a pressure washing company that I don't have any direct correlation to, it's hard to just say, well, it's not hard, but it's a little bit more of a leap to say, hey, just come and we try to get referrals for each other. That's our base goal. But when I can say to a marketing director, hey, come and visit us, I've got people right away that will do business with you.
Yep.
That's a much easier ask, right?
And we talked about this in episode 1, right? You understand a referral because you've been a member for 3 years. I understand a referral because I've been a member for 10 years. And it's, I gained a month there. And there's, I'm pushing it back towards joining sometimes. But anyways, but if you're talking to a business that has no experience with BNI, when you say referral, a lot of times they confuse that with leads.
Mm-hmm.
And so that has a substantially less value than just saying, hey, I want to introduce you to this individual who wants to do business with you.
Right.
So really simplify it down with them. Don't try to dump a ton of BNI jargon into it. Just be like, hey, you, me, 7 a.m.
me.
I'll bring you coffee, right? We're going to show up because it's really important for your business that I introduce you to a Marty or I introduce you to Scott because they want to do business with you. And if you want to grow your business, you will be there at 7 o'clock in the morning.
And, our chapter, we pass we hover around $1 million a year, right?
Yep.
And so our seat value, what I call our seat value, is we take that number and that's tracked religiously. So we know exactly what that number is. We know how many members we have, and it comes out to about $45,000, $48,000 per member.
Yeah, per year.
And so, you get another visitor in, and that's easy to tell them, this is real numbers. We're passing real referrals. Those aren't leads. We're tracking this. Isn't like pie in the sky.
And I don't know a lot of businesses in Corvallis that if you said, or businesses period, that if you said to them, hey, I want to introduce you to a bunch of people who are going to give you $45,000 a year in business, they wouldn't be like, you want me there at 6:15? right?
Yeah.
Like I'll bring the coffee for that opportunity.
That's right.
Right. So it's a mindset shift. You got to get
Yeah.
people in the mindset of like, hey, we're doing super cool things. We track those. So we know that they're cool. $1 million, I think is pretty cool.
That's awesome.
And we want people in the room who
And
also
you were
think it's
part
cool.
of that, creating that. That's
So,
pretty cool.
Yep.
Thank you.
So are you. So.
All right. Well, hope you guys learned about a little bit more about who to invite and how that's going to help you out and the chapter. So until next time, happy networking.